Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Nice, good turnout this early in the morning. I know it's a lot to get up for before 10 for a conference. My name is Alexis Macklin. I'm a research manager at Greenlight Insights. Greenlight Insights is a market intelligence firm focused on virtual and augmented reality, so all that immersive. I specifically focus in on media and entertainment, the location-based entertainment industry, and consumer insights. So we only have 15 minutes, so I'll try to go quick to get you as much information as I can. But when we're looking at our forecast, we have a very positive look within this industry. We already are seeing a large mix of different types of venues. So this shows the number of venues around the world from 2017 to 2023. The biggest section so far is standard arcades, which is VR dedicated venues. So that includes everything from VR junkies to zero latency to Dreamscape. Venues specifically focused on VR as a form of entertainment. The two other things I want to call out are entertainment centers. So we're seeing positive growth with this. The biggest is probably Dave & Buster's, to give as an example. But we're seeing as this succeeds, we're going to see more implementations of this and deployments throughout the globe. The other one is other. So this is internet cafes, and those widely range from North America to Asia Pacific, even within Asia Pacific and Europe as well. So that includes everything from a pub with a VR station to big internet cafes in China. Also included in this category are art galleries, sporting arenas, museums, libraries. So different types of venues there. We're seeing a lot of number of locations, but this accounts actually for a small revenue growth compared to other sectors. So when we're looking at the industry as well in terms of what's out there, we're seeing this diversification also be implemented with our industry survey as well. So we do the survey to many people like you. We do it twice a year, and we kind of see what you all are seeing within the industry. So when we asked what products or services do you provide in addition to VR, traditional video games is the top with 80%. Parties and events is after, and a surprising number of esports tournaments and events are included in this as well. So VR isn't necessarily the only type of product or service that venues are looking to offer. Even within VR dedicated venues, they're having other ancillary products and services as well. So as we're looking at this industry in terms of revenue growth, we're seeing it very much in a hyper growth sector right now, and that's very much as it's getting started again, the second wave from the 80s and 90s and out of home. We're kind of going from 0 to 60, if you will, right now. But we're starting to see it slow down and really get mature, healthy growth as we look to 2021 to 2023. And this is something, this positive outlook is also seen within our survey as well. 89% of operators that we surveyed expected monthly customers to increase in the next 12 months. And 42% said that they expected this to be over 20% increase, which is pretty significant. So in terms of what's working, what's the biggest factor driving customers to decide to purchase a ticket? Word of mouth and online reviews is by far the biggest, over 50%. So this, we very much attribute this to consumer familiarity. If you're unsure what a service or a product is, you kind of look to your friends and family who have done it to let you know. So this is by far the biggest driver in terms of why people are coming in. Multiplayer experiences are the second, so that's from a social experience as well. Being able to play with your friends and family is a huge driver, something you can do as a group. So as far as challenges, we're definitely seeing that consumer familiarity be that top reason. The biggest part of this is how do you sell to someone who doesn't know what you're selling? So it's by far a biggest challenge, especially to smaller operators tied into that high cost of marketing. So those very closely go together. So although we've seen all this growth, we've definitely seen some closures within the last year, some big closures. So IMAX has drawn back. We've seen the exit of Starbreeze as far as their studio. Star VR is slowing down as well. And then sadly, on March 31st, VR Zone in Japan closed down. So we're definitely seeing some closures around the world. But this is relatively healthy. We're seeing the most amount of closures as far as our industry database that we track, over 400 global locations. We saw that kind of peak in 2018. We're a lot slower than what we saw last year. But this is relatively good news. The closures are still a small percentage of the overall market that we're tracking, and they're relatively new VR-focused venues. So more than 50% were open for less than 18 months. So the other flip side of the coin as well, we're seeing that openings are far outpacing the closures that what we're seeing in the industry. And this is largely with those VR dedicated venues. Though we're seeing more growth than ever in more traditional out-of-home entertainment venues like cinema and entertainment centers. In this specific graphic, we didn't include the 122 Dave & Buster's locations, since that would just throw that, give a false representation of what's going on. But we're definitely seeing that starting to be very much a growth in terms of this industry. So we're seeing more, in the last couple years, we've seen more dedicated VR venues that were popping up, and including VR. But we're definitely seeing a shift by 2023, 2024, 2025, more of a 50-50 split between traditional out-of-home entertainment centers that are adding in VR as a installation. So whether that is cinemas or entertainment centers, theme parks, museums, is definitely slowly growing, and as we're seeing success, we'll continue to see that. I wanted to leave some room for questions, so this is basically the big points of what I'm saying. The LBE VR sector is quickly growing, and we're seeing that through a lot of different dedication of venue types. But VR is still not a major profit driver. We're still seeing a lot of venues look to ancillary products and services to help drive their revenue up. And this is largely because consumer familiarity is still a pressing issue. And we've seen that as well in our consumer survey. We see that a lot of consumers haven't tried VR yet, the general consumer. So it's still a pressing issue. So something that I also wanted to mention is the survey is still open. This data will change a little bit as we add more survey responses. Follow up with me and you can participate and also receive top-line results. But I wanted to leave 5 minutes, and I pretty much did that, for any questions you may have. Kevin. I could repeat it for now, what you're asking.
VR Zone, Japan.
Yes.
Closed.
Yes. If you look at their website right now, they say they closed March 31st. That was recently.
That's refurbishment or closed down.
That's what it says on. Yep. Yeah.
Temporary, but they've got the other facilities, VR Zone
Yes.
and they also have the Tokyo facility.
Yes, they're by far not a failure by any means. I just wanted to point out that that specific location did close as well.
Wondering, it was always a temporary facility installation before they moved on to the next one. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about, if you know, the difference between the consumer perception of VR and the context? Can you talk a little bit about what you know, if you do, about the
Yeah.
consumer perception of VR in the context of a VR-only VR only center, VR only arcade, or compared to it working in an FEC or a Dave & Buster's or whatever? What's the
Yeah.
difference? Is there a preference? You know,
So on the consumer side, we asked this last in March of last year. We're getting ready to do our next round of consumer surveying for out of home. But when we asked this question, we didn't specifically ask, do you want to go to Dave & Buster's and do VR, go to a VR arcade? We asked it where, what type of experience did you want to have? So did you want to pay per 30 minutes or an hour to do VR, specifically gaming? Or do you want to pay for a shorter experience at a lower cost? We also asked if they want to do something more immersive, that was more expensive, and to do something like the Void, where you are doing a free roam experience that is more higher end in terms of technology. So on that side, we saw that the purchasing a 30 minutes or an hour was kind of daunting, so we didn't see as many consumers have interest in that compared to other types of VR entertainment games or rides. I think the big thing there is that uncertainty of what you're going to do for 30 minutes. I would say that analyzing it, since within that sample there's still that unfamiliarity there. There's still a tough time recalling different hardware products and different types of content as well. But in addition to that, as far as consumers in VR content, we do see that there's a wide variety of interest in terms of experiences beyond gaming. So immersive theater types of experiences, tourism is a huge draw in terms of that type of traveling experience. And we're also seeing within our tracker the operators kind of look to diversify their content gathering as well, to be able to appeal to a broader audience beyond the first-person wave shooters.
In some of your slides, you mentioned VR/AR. Can you clarify what the AR components are?
Yeah, that's still a very small category within what we're seeing in the out-of-home entertainment area. One, locally is One Dome. We're also seeing Hado in Japan as well. This is still very small in terms of the overall LBE immersive experiences that we're seeing, but it is growing in terms of, again, that kind of 0 to 60.
Would you classify them as consumers bringing their personal devices like phones, or would they be more like HoloLens type of experiences?
It would be more focused on a head mount. So we try to tie it into the locations themselves supplying the hardware.
Hi.
Hi.
I think would it be possible for you in the future to start segmenting between ticketed and non-ticketed attractions? I think that's something I'm from Las Vegas. We've seen an increasing emergence with spaces, nomadic,
Yes.
dreamscape, an emergence of destination ticketed attractions. I think that's a
Yes.
really interesting trend in industry that's distinct from the arcade business. It'd be good to see that. Also, have you done any research into pricing, like on a price per minute basis? It's one of the ways that we analyze the industry to try to understand how the content's being monetized.
Yeah, definitely. So for your first point, we do segment that out. I didn't highlight it here, but that is something that we look at. As far as pricing, we look at it from a couple different ways. As far as our tracking of the industry, we see that that dollar per minute quoted industry standard is actually more advanced or higher than what the actual global average is. It's about 60 cents per minute. And that's largely because you can't really charge a consumer $60 for 60 minutes. It's a bit expensive. So we see a lot of those smaller operators adjust for that. In addition to, we, on the consumer side, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head what our percentages were, but we did see that the there was a higher interest in consumers paying around $10 for a 15-minute experience. 5 to 10 was a better range than the 15 to 20. So that was something that we saw as well. But definitely follow up with me, and I can give you a more concrete answer on the consumer side.
Thank you very much, Alexis.
Right.
Thank you very much.